Advisory Board member, Blue Ocean Corporation, London. And in conversation with him is my colleague Uday Pratap Singh, Senior Editor, NewsX. Round of applause, ladies and gentlemen, for Dr. Pushpinder Punia.
Hello and welcome to our audience here, of course, physically present with us, and welcome virtually to all of you joining us on television and on our digital platforms. We are going to continue this theme of Next in Deep Sea by now diving straight back into the ocean. Dr. Punia, you know, you have, of course, a lot of expertise and experience, but because of your, work with the Niti Aayog, I want to begin by asking you about policy making. How central is it, looking at the world we live in today, that ocean logistics becomes central now to policy making, not just for us in India, but across the world?
Thank you for giving me this opportunity to share my views with such a wonderful and brilliant people who are sitting here. You know, ocean logistics has become a part of public narrative. You know, how right now, how the curbing of ships in the Strait of Hormuz is negatively impacting petroleum and LPG supply across the world. It is occupying our mindset, you know, even on all digital media, in part of, you know, any conversation where you are sitting. So you are right in that, you know, ocean logistics is, and the supply chain which lies underneath it, have become a part of the public narrative. And it kind of emphasizes that how important supply chains and ocean logistics are for the smooth running of the socio-economic lives across the world. But, you know, the point which I want to make is that, you know, this is in some sense right now a negative look at it. You know, that how supply chains are getting impacted, how the, you know, the Strait of Hormuz is getting blocked, and we are likely to run into acute shortage of petroleum and the, you know, the LPG gases and all. But, you know, how to turn this narrative into a positive way of thinking from this, I think we got to look at the insight provided by our Honorable Prime Minister, Modi ji, when he came to inaugurate this function on 12th. You know, he, you know, related 12th of March with one of the most important event in the Indian history. And that is when Mahatma Gandhi started his Dandi March. So, you know, what was the Dandi March? For those of us who are, you know, sitting in the room, are from abroad, Dandi March was a non-violent protest by Mahatma Gandhi by taking 78 volunteers from Sabarmati Ashram and going up to Dandi, which was at that time, you know, had a different name. How you can protest non-violently to bring about a humongous change. So that is what the Sabarmati Ashram's move by Mahatma Gandhi on 12th of March was. That, you know, to get freedom from the colonial power, we got to organize people in peaceful manner and then show how exploitative those laws of, you know, the salt laws at that time were, and how they could be broken without really causing any fight or any dispute. So Mahatma Gandhi took 78 volunteers with him and then walked 387 kilometers over 24 days and went to Navasi, and there, by using the ocean's water and evaporating it, he produced salt and showed that, look, alternates are possible. Supply chains can be built by another manner, and you don't have to fight. You can, turn all those changes by positively mobilizing people, by building a positive narrative about it, and then showing how exploitative those laws are.
Absolutely. I'll come back to, of course, smooth, supply chains, how important that is, and very interesting that you give that historical narrative, of course, and how relevant it is today as well, as PM Modi has said. But I want to quickly draw you back to another event from earlier this year, the budget. Now, the budget was, of course, presented in February by Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman. You wrote an article at that point. You talked about India becoming a maritime hub and how this is possible, the way forward. Tell us more about that vision and how we can actually make our pathways into this maritime hub.
Yes, that's a very significant question which you are asking. And I think this is the way of looking how public policy, which is field-based, as our current, establishment, our current government, led by Modi ji, is connected with. And I must share that I am given a task in Niti Aayog to hold a consultative group. And this consultative group is meant to take the stakeholders' opinion so that, the public policies are in line with what can make positive impact for maximum number of people. So, as you are rightly pointing out, in the budget of this year, when Honorable President of India, Ma'am Draupadi Murmu, addressed the joint session on 28th of January, she specifically mentioned this point that India has the potential to become the maritime hub in next decade if proper investments are made, if the laws and the regulations by which our ports and all are not performing at the highest level, they are changed and modified. And then she pointed out in her address specific things that, look, we have, 7,517 kilometers of coastline available in our country, which can be put into operation. We already have 12 major ports, but our 200 smaller ports can be developed into far greater capacity so that we can become the hub of the international trade of tangible goods. And she pointed out that we are going to invest 70,000 crores of rupees in building the port infrastructure, as well as, in bringing about the changes in the coastal areas so that we can then make sure that all the tangible trade from India which takes place, and right now I must give you a figure that currently, 95% of our tangible goods which are sold by us, exports or import, they are all done through foreign shipping. And we end up spending about 6 lakh crores on this, on shipping those goods. So if we can build our own containers, start building ships in India, and the budget also talked specifically about that, then we can reduce the dwelling time at our ports. I must say that in the last decade, our ranking has already improved in our ports from 54 to 38 in the world.
Wow, amazing.
And our dwelling time period in the port has now come down to 3 days.
Amazing. Amazing.
And that is a huge improvement, and we are better than most of the developed countries.
And we certainly hope that will continue to improve, sir. But I want to now quickly draw you on a largely, we were speaking micro perspective now for India, macro perspective for the world now. In your role, particularly as advisory member for, of course, such a global corporation like the Blue Ocean Corporation is in London, Dr. Punia, how do we make policy and how do we ensure that, there is not an antagonistic sort of attitude amongst the world in disrupting supply chains? How do we better cooperation so that logistics is smooth? That will, at the end of the day, help consumers as well, reduce prices, and ensure freer movement. What are the ideas you have to achieve this?
Yes. No, again, it's a wonderful way of looking forward, I think, because, to those of us sitting in this room who come from academia and those who are policymakers and leaders, I must share that the collaborative governance has become in public policy a major focus area. And collaborative governance basically starts with that the government agencies must start taking the stakeholders not just as mere consultants, but as part of the decision-making process. And you must try and convince them that, by participating in a process of collaboration, you will not lose anything. You may have to pay a short-term price, because when you make a decision as a group, some, trade-offs are also involved, but those short-term trade-offs would lead to a mutual gain in the long run. And, that is where I say, I started, that how Honorable Prime Minister gave a positive narrative about it, that this supply chain breakdown which are taking place now, if we use those instances, like again, to go back to the historical thing, what Mahatma Gandhi had done, and I must compliment NXT Foundation to organizing this, how Mahatma Gandhi also built the consensus around it. Yes. He took his 78 volunteers with him, asked them to create a narrative, and those 24 days of walking, he got the public to come.
Absolutely.
So
okay.
you are
I'm out of time, sir, but 60 seconds to you on this certainty principle of yours. Certainty and stability. Why is it so important in policy making?
Certainty and stability in the financial and the tax world are the most critical points. As it is, an entrepreneur or an investor has to take good amount of risk as if he or she or an entity decides to invest anywhere. And if you add uncertainty and instability in the regulatory framework and the tax laws and all, then, the risk increases so much that the investment will go down. So certainty and stability, and on this, from Niti Aayog, we have, published a working paper also on this aspect, that, what happens is that across the world, you are taxed and you have financial regulations from where you're resident. Yes. But if the place where you go and invest, they ask for additional, compliances and additional laws, then I am in a total confused state. Absolutely. And mind you, people are willing to pay taxes and the financial cost. To give you an example, I had been the financial advisor to the Board of Control on Cricket in India, BCCI, for some years. And I'm, those of you who are interested in cricket, in our IPL league, so many foreign players come and play, and they are paid good amount of money for that. Yeah. What we have laid in the law, that if all those foreign players can pay 20% of their revenue, then they don't have to ask for any compliance with the Indian law other than that. Pay 20%, then no questions are going to be asked from them. Mind you, 20% is such a big price, it looks like. But when I collected a random data, out of 114 foreign players who are playing in IPL, 110 of them paid this 20%.
Imagine. So it's you have to come out with these innovative principles, and that will ensure compliance. All right, we have to leave it at that. Thank you so much. You're obviously inspired by a PM address. You drew in a cricket analogy like he did too. Thank you very much for joining us, Dr. Punia, for being with us at NXT. Thanks indeed.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for that session, Udin. Thank you so much to Dr. Pushpinder Punia for joining us at NXT 2026. And I'll take this opportunity to announce our next panel, where we will be discussing what's next in AI entrepreneurship. Yes, there's a lot of chatter about artificial intelligence, but what does it truly mean as far as entrepreneurship is concerned? Joining us is Mr. Shravant Aluru, CEO and co-founder of Avatar AI. Mr. Aluru, I request you to make your way on the stage. Also with us is Mr. Sanjay Salil, CEO of Indic AI, and they are, of course, our own homegrown artificial intelligence brands. Joining them on the stage